Episode 21 Hermione, he's my boyfriend, and I am. Remy, a noble like you should not make friends with such questionable people. If you need, I can introduce you to many friends. Malfoy said. Noble? Hermione's eyes widened and she looked at Remy in disbelief. Remy was also stunned, then she smiled and smoothed her hair. Oh, pony. No, Malfoy, I think you misunderstood. I just told you that my family is in magnesium, but I didn't say that my family is in the wizarding world of magnesium. Remy said. In fact, my parents are muggles, and so are all my other relatives. WTF. Malfoy suddenly had a confused expression of old people, subways, and mobile phones. It wasn't until he heard laughter all around that Malfoy came to his senses and his little face turned red instantly. Feeling humiliated, Malfoy pointed at Remy with a trembling hand. Not knowing how he got off the stage, he suddenly became incoherent. You, how dare you lie to me? Remy, you cheated on my feelings. I'm going to tell my dad. WTF. Remy suddenly showed the same confused expression as Malfoy just now about the old man, subway, and mobile phone. At the same time, the other little wizards were silent at first, and then broke into a chaotic discussion. What's going on? This Remy cheated on that Malfoy? They are a couple? 2 men? Wow. I have a big melon to eat. I'm so happy. The magic world is amazing. Which of them is one? Need I say more? I can tell by listening, the one called Remy must be number 1. He actually wanted to tell his father. Could it be that they have already? Are all wizard families like this? No, I'm from a wizard family too. This is just an isolated case. Don't escalate it to all wizard families. Listening to the criticisms around them, not only Malfoy, but even Remy's face turned purple. My goodness, I never expected that Malfoy would be such a baby. He actually set a trap for me on the first day of school and labeled me with this identity. How can I pick up girls in the future? No, something must be done. Thinking of this, Remy's brain worked rapidly. When Remy caught a glimpse of Hermione, his heart skipped a beat. Bang. Putting his arm around Hermione's shoulders, Remy stretched out his hand and shook a finger. No, I'm a man and I like women, so don't be so self-indulgent and wishful thinking. You want to frame me by self-destructing? Maybe in the next life. Today I will let you know that the self-destruction trend has no future. At this moment, everyone's eyes were instantly fixed on Malfoy. The gazes were like scorching spotlights, making Malfoy sweat profusely and his face turn as pale as paper. Fault reports quickly flashed across his brain, and various warning pop-ups were stacked densely and continued to pop up. His entire brain suddenly froze due to insufficient available resources. You are lying. I don't believe it. How could you possibly, could it be? Swish. All eyes instantly shifted to Remy. Remy's eyes were solemn. He never expected that Malfoy would be so cunning. He could kill him with just half a sentence that he kept repeating. You must not continue to follow what the other party says at this moment, otherwise you will completely lose the chance to turn the situation around. But where should we break the deadlock? Just when Remy was getting anxious, suddenly, a pair of hands embraced Remy's neck, and then a soft touch gently touched his cheek. Remy was stunned. Remy is my boyfriend and we have been together for 2 years. Don't let your wishful thinking get in the way, said Hermione. Coming back to his senses, he looked at Hermione who was hugging him tightly with her arms, and Remy also put his hand gently on her back. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Malfoy shouted wildly, waving his arms vigorously. Remy, he can't be. How could he be with a mudblood like you? Mudblood? Hermione felt as if her heart was squeezed hard. Although she didn't know much about the wizarding world, she knew what the term mudblood meant. She had heard people talk about it when she was helping Neville find a toad on the train. Pursing her lips, Hermione lowered her head and was about to let go of her hand, but suddenly she realized that the hand that was originally on her shoulder was hugging her tightly and holding her in his arms. "Thank you for helping me. Leave the rest to me. No matter what happens, don't speak," Remy said softly, holding Hermione in his arms with one hand, and then took out a silver. "I'm boiling." Hand, pistol? A gun? That can't be real? Impossible? How could you bring a gun to a magic school? It should be a toy, right? But this metallic texture, why do I feel like it's real? Many young Muggle-born wizards around recognized the thing in Remy's hand and were so scared that their eyes almost popped out of their heads. Then they started to discuss in a low voice. Some thought it was a real gun, while others thought it was a toy. Harry looked at Remy in doubt. Based on what he knew about Remy in just one day, it was possible that this guy was carrying a real gun. Hermione shuddered and was about to say something, but suddenly remembered what Remy had just said. After a brief hesitation, she continued to bury her head in Remy's chest. "Let me introduce you to this thing. It's a weapon invented by Muggles. It's called the Colt Python revolver, and it uses .357 Magnum pistol bullets." As he introduced them, Remy used the hand that was holding Hermione's to take out 6 bullets from the inner pocket of his coat and loaded them into the revolver's unique cylinder. At this moment, all the little wizards who knew what a gun was gasped and stepped back subconsciously. "It's real bullets. This gun must be real. This lunatic actually brought a gun to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry." Due to the enormous power of being able to kill an opponent with just a hit to the torso, Colt once came up with a slogan that is now well known to everyone: "God created all beings, and Colt made all beings equal." SS. Twist the cylinder with a little force and give it a handsome shake. With a click, the cylinder returns to its place. Then, Remy pointed the gun at Malfoy's head. "Guess, can this Muggle-made weapon kill you?" Remy asked. "Remy." Harry squeezed through the crowd and stretched out his hand in shock and fear to grab the gun, but he didn't dare to, for fear that Remy would make a mistake and really kill Malfoy. "Calm down, Remy. I don't know what he just said, but it shouldn't be this serious, right?" Right, Remy, calm down. This is no joke. Put the gun down and talk it over." "Remy, if you're upset I can help you scold him. Just tell me, whether you want to scold him or his mother, I can do both." "What are you yelling at? Just beat him up. Remy, put the gun down first, and let us drag him out and beat him up, how about that?" Under the fearful and earnest persuasion of the little wizards, Remy took back the gun and then pointed it at the door. Episode 22. Did you really shoot? Although I grew up in the Muggle world, I was lucky enough to meet a teacher 2 years ago, and I have been living with the teacher ever since. Therefore, I know very well that many wizards in the wizarding world look down on wizards in the Muggle world, especially the so-called pureblood families. Looking around, Remy glanced at the door to make sure no one was there. "Today I will let you wake up a little, let you know how ignorant you are, and how ridiculous the things you are proud of are." After saying that, Remy pulled the trigger continuously. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 6 consecutive loud noises came from the revolver, and the room suddenly became chaotic with screams everywhere, frightening even the little wizards from the Muggle world. This madman not only brought a gun to school, he actually dared to shoot. They even became more panicked. After all, the other wizards were just frightened by the loud noise, but they knew that compared to the audible sound, the invisible bullet fired at high speed was the real deadly thing. Malfoy was so scared that he collapsed to the ground. He couldn't believe that he had just faced such a terrifying thing, and it was right above his head. Just when the situation was in a mess, Professor McGonagall ran into the room in a panic and immediately saw Remy dumping bullet casings out. "Quiet!" Professor McGonagall shouted to stop the noise in the room, then looked at Remy sullenly. "Mr. Barrett, I think you need to give me an explanation. If you can't give me a reasonable explanation, even Headmaster Dumbledore can't prevent you from being expelled," said Professor McGonagall. Ding-a-ling. After dumping out the shells, Remy shook the gun to reset the cylinder, then pointed at Malfoy, who had shrunk to the wall behind him. "He affectionately called me a mudblood, so I enthusiastically introduced him to some little toys invented by Muggles. No one was hurt, and no guns were fired into the room, right?" Remy said calmly. Professor McGonagall glanced at the horrified Malfoy and his expression eased a little. Such words were indeed something he could say. And what Remy said was true, no one was hurt. But then, Professor McGonagall frowned again. "Mr. Barrett, even if this is the case, it is not a reason for you to shoot. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to do this? What if—" "Nothing will happen, Professor." Remy interrupted, "A gun is just a tool, just like a wand. Whether it is dangerous or not depends on the person holding it. It is not dangerous in my hands." "No, they are different." Professor McGonagall shook his head. "The wand will not be lethal in your hands, but the gun is different." Professor McGonagall held out his hand to Remy. "You can't use this dangerous weapon at will now. Give it to me for safekeeping. This gun of mine was custom-made, and my name is engraved on it. This gun cost me more than $20,000, which is equivalent to nearly 300 galleons," said Remy. "I'm so mad. So expensive?" Many young wizards from wizard families suddenly widened their eyes, and some of them doubted whether they had heard it wrongly. 300 galleons for a thing like this? Are you sure it's not Seacare? Or Nat? Are prices so high in the Muggle world? Even Professor McGonagall couldn't help but be a little surprised. "Okay, I'll keep it safe." Nodding, taking Remy's gun away, Professor McGonagall glanced around, then clapped his hands. "Now, you line up and follow me," said Professor McGonagall. Many little wizards looked at each other, and then consciously lined up behind Remy. It's not that they want to mess with Remy, but Remy is now standing closest to the door. There were some closer before, but they were all scared away after Remy fired the gun. However, Remy didn't want to be first. Patting Hermione's shoulder, Remy released her hand, grabbed her sleeve and led her to the back of the line. "I was so scared just now. I thought you would be fired," Hermione said in a low voice. "Don't worry, my teacher and Headmaster Dumbledore have been good friends for many years. I have a strong backing, otherwise I wouldn't have shot just now," Remy said. "That's too dangerous. Can you please not do such dangerous things in the future?" "Well, it's a little difficult, but I promise you I will try my best to control myself." For some reason, Hermione suddenly stopped talking again. Walking out of the room in a line, every little wizard couldn't help but gasp after seeing the bullet holes in the passage, especially those little wizards who had never heard of such things as guns. Remy and Hermione followed the procession out of the room and into the great hall at the end. The auditorium was magnificent, with 4 long tables stretching from one end of the hall to the other. Every table was filled with students, with only the area at the front being empty. The 4 long tables were filled with glittering golden plates and high-footed wine glasses. Fortunately, there was no food on the tables at the moment, otherwise it would have been a critical blow to the little wizards who had traveled across mountains and rivers to come here. There were thousands of lit candles floating in the air above the table, too many to count. They are not fixed, but are always moving, seemingly with a regular pattern and yet without a regular pattern. Under the gaze of many young faces, the young wizards lined up and walked into the auditorium. Walking along the aisle in the middle of the hall to the front, on the platform between the teachers' seats and 4 long tables, the young wizards lined up and looked at Professor McGonagall nervously. She placed a dirty-looking wizard hat on a high stool. This wizard's hat is dirty, old, and patched. If it were thrown in Diagon Alley, I'm afraid no one would pick it up. But it was obviously not as terrible as its appearance, because since it appeared, everyone in the auditorium had their eyes on it. After a while, it began to twist, and then a crack like a mouth appeared. Then, I heard it suddenly start singing. You may think I am not pretty. But don't judge a person by his appearance. If you can find a prettier hat than mine, I could eat myself. You can make your bowler hats black and shiny. Let your high silk hats be smooth and crisp. I am the sorting hat of Hogwarts. Of course it is taller than your hats. Any thoughts hidden in your mind? No one can escape the sorting hat's sharp eyes. Try it on and I'll tell you. Which college should you be assigned to? You might belong in Gryffindor. There is courage buried deep in my heart. Their courage, spirit and chivalry to make Gryffindor outstanding. You may belong to Hufflepuff. The people there are honest and loyal. Hufflepuff students are tenacious and honest, not afraid of hard work. If you are smart, maybe into the wisdom of Ravenclaw. Those who are wise and knowledgeable, they will always meet their fellow travelers there. Maybe you'll go to Slytherin. Make sincere friends here. But those cunning and sinister people will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. Come where me. Don't be afraid. Don't panic. In my hands, even though I don't have any hands, you are absolutely safe. Because I am a thinking magic hat. Episode 23, Hogwarts Hair Salon. Hogwarts Great Hall. Dumbledore is the headmaster. 10 professors sat behind the stage. The 4 major colleges are listed on both sides. Sorting first, then taking your place. You are Dumbledore's apprentice. This sorting hat is unbelievable and sloppy, but it has great power. Snape, headmaster of Snake House, and deputy headmaster of Lion House. Snape, strong in potions, loyal and cold-faced. The vice principal is a cat girl, and she is ruthless in the classroom. Flitwick, dean of the Eagle Academy, said that appearance is not the best indicator of a duel champion. Sprout manages the Badger Yard, and is good at both planting and cooking. One by one, the little wizards whose names were called walked to the high stools, put on the sorting hat, and were sorted into different houses. Remy watched from the side and hummed a jingle he had made up in his heart, and he thought it was much better than the song the sorting hat had just sung. At least he didn't criticize anyone, unlike the sorting hat, which praised 3 houses and only criticized the Snake House, although there was a hint of sarcasm in that. Remy Barrett. Is it my turn so soon? They didn't come in the order of the queue, so why did they have to queue before? Formalism, bad review. Shaking his hair, Remy walked out of the line, walked to the high stool and sat down. Behind him, Headmaster Dumbledore suddenly perked up, his eyes fixed on the back of Remy's head. Next to the plate in front of him was a gun, which Professor McGonagall had just handed to him. Dumbledore was also a little surprised about this gun, but after all, he had already been warned by Nicholas Flamel. He was just surprised that Remy actually brought a gun to Hogwarts and used it. This old guy is trying to trick me again, but which house will you be sorted into? Dumbledore thought curiously. Before the gun appeared, Dumbledore thought Remy should be sorted into Ravenclaw House, but now, he was a little unsure. It seems that both Gryffindor and Slytherin are possible, especially Slytherin. If Remy went to Slytherin, where power is supreme, with his abilities he would have turned the place upside down, right? Thinking of this, Dumbledore suddenly got a headache. After Remy sat down, Professor McGonagall, holding the sorting hat, turned her head slightly and glanced at Dumbledore. After getting Dumbledore's nod, she gently placed the sorting hat on Remy's head. The huge hat instantly covered half of Remy's face. "Let me see what qualities you possess and where you should go." The sorting hat suddenly stopped talking. What does it see? It saw a magic supply store called Remy's Aid opened in Diagon Alley, and there was a constant stream of people going there to shop. It saw that in this store, Remy was happily introducing magical items called magic guns to customers, and shouted that these things were much more useful than magic wands. It saw boxes of magical items called magic grenades stored in the warehouse, and magic missiles on the shelves next to them. It saw that in a very deep basement, something called a magic nuclear bomb was being tested. It sees Azkaban. Dumbledore. Imprison him in Azkaban immediately. Right now. Right now. Immediately. Now. Azkaban? Is there such a house at Hogwarts? Is it newly built? Or a hidden academy? Some young wizards who didn't know the truth whispered to the people around them, while some young wizards who knew what Azkaban was looked at the sorting hat in surprise. They didn't understand why the sorting hat asked Dumbledore to send Remy to Azkaban, which was not a good place. However, what surprised them even more was that Remy cheered and jumped up when he heard the sorting hat's shout. "Woohoo, take off." "Thank you so much, Mr. Sorting Hat. I have long wanted to go to Azkaban to catch a Dementor for fun." "Principal Dumbledore, did you hear everything? Mr. Sorting Hat sorted me into Azkaban, please send me there." Dumbledore. At this moment, Dumbledore felt that his future was bleak. A student with magical powers beyond imagination, a love for dangerous guns and the courage to use them, and aspirations for Azkaban, God knows how much trouble he will cause in Hogwarts. With an imperceptible sigh, Headmaster Dumbledore stood up, stretched out his hands and pressed them downward, signaling everyone to be quiet. "Sorting Hat, although I asked you to play a joke on this student of my old friend, your joke went a little too far. Officially separate Remy into a new house." Dumbledore looked at the sorting hat deeply, with a warning look in his eyes, warning it not to talk nonsense. Seeing Dumbledore's statement, the sorting hat sighed helplessly. Although it has thoughts, it is just a magic hat after all. Since Dumbledore does not support it, it can't do anything. And it couldn't go against Dumbledore's decision. Apologize to Remy, and the sorting hat lets Remy put it back on. Remy, who was overjoyed for nothing, reluctantly put the sorting hat back on. Then the sorting hat made a series of humming and awing sounds, and no one knew what went wrong with it. Remy became impatient after waiting for a long time without the sorting hat assigning him a house. There are so many people watching in the audience. How can he get off the stage if he continues like this? Have you thought it through? If all else fails, sort me into Gryffindor, and Ravenclaw as well. Okay. Gryffindor. Remy. Are you waiting for me to randomly name a college, having been hesitating here for so long? In stark contrast to Remy's speechless expression, after hearing the word Gryffindor, Harry and Hermione, who had not yet been sorted, both breathed a sigh of relief. Although they didn't know what exactly happened, they knew that Remy would not be fired, at least not now. Snap, snap, snap. Amid the applause, Remy wordlessly took off the sorting hat and handed it to Professor McGonagall, then walked off the stage and sat down at the Gryffindor table. Although he was the third student sorted into Gryffindor, he did not sit next to the older students, but sat in the middle, neither too close nor too far away. It's simple, it's just that this place is quite spacious and the competition pressure will be much less once the food is served. After a while, several more young wizards were sorted into Gryffindor, but as Remy had expected, they did not sit next to him. Until Hermione was sorted into Gryffindor House, she hesitated for a long time, and finally sat next to Remy, but there was one person between them. Remy smiled slightly and shifted his position to sit next to Hermione. Hermione was sitting so close to him, wouldn't it be foolish for him not to take the initiative? As expected, Hermione did not object to Remy's arrival. Instead, she took the initiative to talk about the ceiling of the Great Hall. After chatting for a while, suddenly, there was an unprecedented burst of warm applause and cheers all around. It turned out that Harry Potter came to the Lion Court. Episode 24. Are you in love? As he wished, he arrived at Gryffindor College where Remy and Ronald were. Harry put down the sorting hat and walked quickly towards the long table of Gryffindor College. He didn't go looking for Remy, but patted Remy on the shoulder when he passed by Remy, gave Remy a thumbs up, and whispered, "Come on." Then he walked forward and sat down next to Ronald. Ronald glanced at Remy and Hermione, who were almost leaning against each other. For some reason, he always felt that something was wrong, as if a voice in the dark was whispering to him, "The plot shouldn't be like this, you are." The sorting is still going on, and one by one the little wizards are heading to their destined place under the judgment of the sorting hat. Everyone's arrival will be welcomed with applause from the students of that college. Although the applause is warm, there are still differences. For example, those who are good-looking or handsome receive obviously more enthusiastic applause than others. The magical world is also a world where appearance matters. Remy's heart was broken when he saw the beauties being sent to other hospitals one by one. Trying to mend his broken heart, Remy turned to look at Hermione. Hermione has a delicate face, but her long bangs and fluffy, somewhat messy hair almost hide her beauty, and coupled with her slightly conspicuous front teeth, all she needs is a pair of glasses with thick lenses to complete the look. Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something dirty on my face?" Under Remy's gaze, Hermione lowered her head in panic and wiped her face with her hands again and again. "No, I just feel that although you are very beautiful now, you will definitely be more beautiful if you change your hairstyle. It will be easy to become the campus beauty," Remy said. Hermione blushed and didn't respond, she just continued to wipe her face. At this moment, the last young wizard was sorted into Slytherin College, and the sorting ceremony officially ended. Professor McGonagall put away the scroll and nodded to Dumbledore, who then stood up. "Welcome to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry to start a new school year," Dumbledore said. "Before the party begins, I have 2 things to say, idiot. Crybaby. Scum. Twist. Thank you everyone." It was not until Dumbledore sat down that the young wizards came to their senses. "Great. Well said." Remy stood up and clapped vigorously as he spoke. He liked principals who didn't give long speeches. Led by Remy, the little wizards in the auditorium also applauded and cheered. Amidst thunderous applause, every table suddenly appeared filled with a variety of delicious food. The little wizards stopped clapping in unison at once, even more orderly than when they heard the command to stop. Looking at the food on the table, Remy breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that Hogwarts would give him a table to look up at the stars, but fortunately, they didn't. "Would you like a glass of orange juice?" Remy asked. Okay, thank you." Pouring a glass of orange juice for Hermione and one for himself, Remy then pulled the lamb chops in front of him and devoured them. There was no one around them, including on the opposite side. Couldn't they just eat whatever delicious food they wanted in this huge area? Perhaps she was influenced by Remy's delicious eating, or perhaps she was really hungry. Hermione also started to eat voraciously after elegantly drinking 2 sips of orange juice. The young wizards were all very hungry, and the seniors were eating very enthusiastically, perhaps because they had been waiting in the auditorium for a long time and were hungry. When most people were about 70% full, the little wizards slowed down their eating and started chatting with the people around them. "That gun should be bought for you by your parents, right? I once heard my father say that the gun control in Magnesium is much looser than in Britain, but do children there have guns?" Hermione asked. "Well, of course not. After swallowing the pudding in his mouth, Remy picked up the napkin and wiped his mouth. At least for now, children in the country cannot own guns. But I heard that several gun giants have already started preparing guns for children. In another 20 or 30 years, maybe everyone can own guns. Is this so scary? Then why did your parents buy you a gun? Are they worried that you would be alone in country and want to protect yourself? Hermione asked. No. Remy shook his head. My parents both work for Barrett, a firearms company and a family business. Oh, I see. Hermione nodded. My parents are both dentists. Really? Then you can eat as much candy as you want, right? Even if you have cavities, your parents can help you treat them. On the contrary, my parents don't let me eat too many sweets. While they were chatting, suddenly, two big black rats came out from nowhere and appeared on Remy's left side. Hi, Remy. ×2. Two people who looked exactly the same greeted each other in unusually synchronized movements. They were the Weasley twins who had met once at the train station. Hi, George Fred, what's up? Remy asked curiously. Oh, you gave us new names? Why not Fred George? The two asked one by one. I really can't explain this. How about you two have a fight and whoever wins gets their name on the back? Remy said with a smile. Well, I can consider it. But not now. We have something important to discuss with you. ×2. As they spoke, they both leaned their heads towards Remy at the same time. We heard from Ronald that Professor McGonagall confiscated your gun, but not the bullets. Remy raised an eyebrow. Why, you want it? Yes, we are very interested in it. We know where Professor McGonagall keeps confiscated items. We can help you steal the gun back. Oh, you just quoted me a price? Are you so businesslike? Forget about the gun. Professor McGonagall just handed the gun to Headmaster Dumbledore. As for the bullets, I can give you some, but definitely not now. Remy said. Clear. Thank you so much. We will give you some equally interesting toys later. We're leaving now and won't bother you anymore. Have a nice date. The two of them chatted with each other and then disappeared under the long table. Remy suddenly realized and thought, no wonder I didn't notice them coming just now. It turned out that they were old Beijing people and they even walked under the tunnel. Hermione blushed and quickly lowered her head to continue eating. Where were we just now? Oh, by the way, you just misunderstood. Actually, my parents also live in country. Oh. Where is your home then? Where is my home? Remy's face fell and he immediately told Hermione how unreliable his parents were. On the other side, a group of young wizards were frightened by the sudden appearance of the ghost army. Some of them wanted to come over to scare Remy, but when they saw the two people almost leaning against each other, every ghost turned their heads away with a look of disgust. The strong stench there is so strong that even ghosts can't stand it. Episode 25 I Want to Shoot You. When all the little wizards had almost finished eating and started to concentrate on chatting, the food on the long table changed from delicious dishes to sweet and delicious desserts, ice cream, pudding and tea. Unlike the previous Yorkshire pudding which was similar to a bread roll, this time it is a dessert pudding. As the food on the table changed, tea parties broke out throughout the auditorium. Looking at Hermione next to him, Remy felt that he couldn't be so unsociable. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter to him, but Hermione might be ostracized. After talking to Hermione, they both stood up and sat down next to Harry. Oh, you're here, Remy, we were just discussing you, said Ronald who was sitting opposite. Across from them, Harry greeted Remy and Hermione. What bad things do you say about me behind my back? Remy asked with a smile. I'm not saying anything bad. We were discussing whether you can lead us to win this year's House Cup. I heard that Gryffindor hasn't won the House Cup for a long time. Harry explained. Count on me? Remy's eyes widened in disbelief. You expect me to give extra points to the house? Please, if I don't deduct a negative number from Gryffindor's score, it will be considered a poor performance, okay? Everyone. What kind of self-destructive wolf statement is this? Are you a spy sent by another college? Haha, are you kidding? Ronald asked. No, I really don't like studying. Remy said, I know a lot only because my teacher often told me some interesting stories when I was with him. I have never finished reading a serious magic book. I always fall asleep while reading. So I read it when I can't sleep. The hypnotic effect is great. Everyone. You really are here to be a spy, right? Just when everyone didn't know how to evaluate Remy, Hermione coughed lightly. If it's just a test on textbook content, I should be able to do it. I've already finished reading all the textbooks for this school year. If I'm given another 2 months, I should be able to memorize them. Hermione said. Already finished reading? Can I memorize the textbooks in 2 months? Hiss. A bunch of poor students immediately took a deep breath and offered to pass cigarettes to the big guy. No, they wanted to pass tea to the big guy. Seeing Hermione blending in smoothly and chatting about study and the house cup, Remy turned his attention to the teachers' seats. Looking at a certain man with a bun who was whispering with the greasy Uncle Snape, Remy's hand was itching to shoot him on the head. He carried more than one gun, and not just childish weapons like revolvers. While he's off guard, I should be able to shoot Voldemort in the back of his head, right? No, that's not right. Voldemort should be in a possessed state right now. In this state, bullets can't threaten him. I'll shoot you after you're resurrected. Remy calculated silently. If the Dark Lord, who despised Muggles the most, was shot dead by a Muggle weapon, this news would be very exciting if confirmed, and it should be able to unlock a legendary achievement. It's a pity that it can't collapse now. Remy once conducted an experiment with Nicholas Flamel, and found that if the wizard was prepared, even the most common defensive spell could block the bullet without any damage. Of course, Remy wasn't experimenting on Nicholas Flamel, but on a magically protected piece of beef. Guns can only be effective when the wizard is caught off guard. In the teacher's seat, Dumbledore keenly noticed that there was something wrong with Remy's eyes, as if there was an unusually dangerous light in them. Following Remy's gaze, Dumbledore's heart skipped a beat. Could this child have noticed something? Dumbledore thought. At this moment, Professor Quirrell, who was being stared at by Remy, also noticed that someone was staring at him. He raised his head, noticed Remy, gave a kind and heartwarming smile and nodded. He throws me a peach, and I repay him with a plum. Remy also smiled slightly and used his hand as a gun to make a shooting gesture towards Professor Quirrell. Dumbledore was startled by what he saw, thinking, it's over, Remy must have seen something, the plan might go wrong. But Professor Quirrell obviously didn't understand the meaning of Remy's gesture at all. He even responded to Remy's table manners with a smile on his face, and raised his wine glass to gesture to Remy. Remy immediately laughed and raised his glass to signal Professor Quirrell, even though they were drinking fruit juice. Compared to the two smiling people, Hermione and Harry, who were sitting on Remy's left and right, looked at Remy with confusion. They understood the meaning of Remy's gesture just now. It was not a greeting etiquette. Well, it could be considered a greeting, but it was not friendly at all. Remy, did you and Professor Quirrell know each other before? Did you have conflicts? Harry asked. I don't know him. Remy said with a smile. Then why did you make that gesture to Professor Quirrell? He gave me a bad feeling. I felt there was something strange about him, so I wanted to test him. So what did you find out? Oh, I observed the sky at night and found that this person has two faces. He is one person in front of people and another behind their backs. He is truly a beast in human form. Harry. How did this suddenly get to the topic of observing the night sky? Divination? Hermione asked. Do you know how to do divination? I think divination is just a trick for kids. If magic exists, why doesn't divination exist? Remy said, do you know? The first time I saw you, I saw your future. See my future? Is this true or false? Seeing Hermione's suspicious and curious look, Remy smiled and held out his hand. Don't believe it? Give me your hand, I'll confirm it again and tell you your future. After a moment's hesitation, Hermione handed her hand to Remy. A smile suddenly appeared on Remy's lips. This trick of tricking girls into giving you their hands really works every time. In the Far East, there is a divination method called palmistry. Just by observing a person's palm lines, you can predict that person's future, said Remy. Is it true? Can you see the future by looking at your palm? Harry asked curiously. Look, this is called the lifeline. Hermione's lifeline is very long, but there are a few places in the middle that are not connected like other places. One of them is even broken beyond recognition. This means that Hermione will have a long life, but she will encounter several dangers in the middle. One of them will encounter several dangers in a short period of time. Fortunately, after she gets through it, everything will be smooth sailing. Remy spread out Hermione's little hand as he introduced her, and pretended to be serious as he looked here and poked there, taking advantage of her. But the person being taken advantage of is completely unaware of it. Are you kidding? How could I possibly be in danger so many times? Hermione said. Remy smiled and shook his head, then pointed to another line on Hermione's palm. This one is called the career line. Your career line is also very long, which means that your highest achievement in the future will be very high. Huh? What's wrong? What did you see? Hearing the urgency in Hermione's tone, Remy smiled slightly. Hooked. Episode 26. Ronald, listen to me, thank you. Your career line is not starting at the right point. At this point 4 years later, you should still be in school. How can you have a small peak in your career? Remy frowned and scratched his head, looking extremely puzzled. Hermione smiled smugly. See, your way of divination is not reliable at all. Harry also smiled. Just as Hermione was about to take her hand away, Ronald, who was sitting opposite her, suddenly spoke. Could it be that Hermione joins the student union and becomes a prefect? Ronald said, if it's 4 years later, we'll just be in the 5th grade, and 5th graders can indeed run for prefect. My brother Percy is the prefect now. As if a key word was triggered, as soon as Ronald finished speaking, Percy, who was sitting not far away, immediately took over the conversation. Yes, in 5th grade you can run for prefect, and in 7th grade you can run for student union president and president, but only the best students can take on these 2 jobs, Percy introduced, revealing a hint of pride. Well, it's not that hidden actually. After listening to Ronald and Percy's introduction, Hermione looked at Remy in surprise, and her hand, which was about to be retracted, unconsciously returned to Remy's hand. Remy was delighted and smiled at Ronald. Thank you, you are such a good wingman, I give you full marks for this assist. Looking at Remy's smile, Ronald didn't understand what was going on, but he just felt something was wrong. His intuition told him that he shouldn't have spoken out loud, let alone said those words. What the hell, what's with this inexplicable feeling of regret? After thinking for a long time without any idea, Ronald decided to continue eating. Opposite him, Remy, holding Hermione's little hand, continued to read Hermione's palm. I have already watched 2 of the 3 major plots, and only the love plot is left. Remy observed carefully for a long time, then he let out a sigh and smiled under Hermione's nervous gaze. It's not convenient to talk about the future of this line publicly. Come closer and I'll tell you quietly. Remy said. Hermione quickly leaned her ear over, and then she heard Remy whisper in her ear. I think you will marry me in the future. Boo. The real purpose is revealed. And Remy wasn't molesting Hermione. It's not polite if you don't reciprocate. Hermione kissed him without permission before, and now he kissed her back. This is called give and take. It's polite to give and take. Hermione was stunned when she felt someone kiss her face, and then her face quickly heated up. Nonsense. How could I possibly? You must be talking nonsense. I don't believe it. After lightly hitting Remy, Hermione fell on the table in panic and buried her head tightly in her arms. Seeing Remy suddenly kiss Hermione, everyone around was stunned, and then they all smiled. At this moment, no one cares whether Remy's divination is accurate or not. Anyone who is not a fool can understand that Remy has other intentions. Many people even looked as if they had learned something and were eager to look at the person they loved in their hearts. The dinner went on for a while and the auditorium gradually became quiet. Many little wizards yawned and looked drowsy. Especially the little wizards who just entered school this year. Seeing this, Dumbledore picked up a spoon and knocked on a golden cup, making a rhythmic and crisp sound. This sound could represent nobility to some extent, just like the sound of two high-end red wine glasses colliding. Well, it could also be the sound of a heart breaking. With a knock, the food on all the tables disappeared, and Headmaster Dumbledore stood up again. Everyone should be well fed and well drunk now. Before you return to your dormitories, I would like to tell you some things you should pay attention to when studying at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. First of all, first-year students, please note that the forest in the school is a forbidden forest. No one is allowed to enter without permission. Some senior students also need to pay special attention to this. As he spoke, Headmaster Dumbledore looked around at the students of the 4 major colleges, and focused on the Gryffindor table for a while. Secondly, the administrator of Hogwarts Castle hopes that I can remind everyone not to cast spells in the corridors during class breaks, otherwise it will be dangerous to yourself and your classmates. Also, students who are interested in signing up for the Quidditch team should find Ms. Hodge to sign up before the second week of this semester. Don't miss it. At this point, Dumbledore glanced at Remy, feeling a little hesitant. After a moment's thought, Dumbledore continued, "Finally, I must solemnly inform you that there are some new changes in Hogwarts Castle this year. If you don't want to suffer an unexpected and painful death, please be sure not to enter the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor." Drop. Remy's eyes lit up. The code has been received and decoded, set off immediately. Target, the corridor on the right side of the 4th floor. Now, let's sing the school song together. Dumbledore waved his hand, and music scores appeared in the air and floated towards the many young wizards. Everyone can choose their favorite piece. Ready, sing. Following the command, everyone started singing, either happily, helplessly, or listlessly. Hogwarts, 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 Hogwarts. Please teach us knowledge. Whether we are bald old men or a child who broke his knee, our minds can accept some interesting things. Because now our brains are empty, full of air, dead flies, and trifles. Teach us some valuable knowledge. Give us back what we have forgotten. Just do your best and leave the rest to us. We will study hard until we are reduced to dust. The rhythm doesn't exist, the singing skills don't exist, and even the off-tune doesn't exist. Because everyone's music is different, and different accompaniments are intertwined, there is no tune at all, so how can it be out of tune? Remy didn't even sing but just read it because he couldn't find the tune. After the Weasley twins, who had the slowest tempo, finished singing the school song with a funeral march, Headmaster Dumbledore happily announced that the prefects of each house would lead the new students of their respective houses back to their dormitories. This made everyone, including the professors, feel relieved. The previous school song segment was really messy. The young Gryffindor wizards stood up and followed their prefect Percy out. Remy was about to leave when he found that Hermione did not stand up, and she did not sing the school song before. "Are you asleep?" Remy poked Hermione and asked softly. When Hermione didn't respond, Remy rolled his eyes. "There's nothing I can do. At this time, it seems that only I, your boyfriend, can carry you back to rest." As soon as she finished speaking, before Remy could extend his hand, Hermione stood up and walked quickly towards the entrance of the auditorium. Remy smiled slightly and stood up to follow. At the entrance of the Great Hall, Remy saw the Hogwarts castle warden handing Percy a piece of parchment with the list of dormitories for this year's freshmen at Gryffindor College written on it. Episode 27, The Male Class Leader is Not a Man? Walking out of the hall, climbing the marble stairs, and passing through a long corridor full of moving portraits, Percy led everyone into a secret passage behind a curtain. Not long after walking out of the secret passage, Percy led everyone into another secret passage. "I once heard from my teacher that Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was originally established to shelter homeless wizards who were persecuted by ordinary people. Therefore, there are many secret passages in Hogwarts Castle to prevent ordinary people from breaking in and hiding in time." Remy introduced Hermione. Hermione didn't say anything, just nodded and hummed softly. After walking for about 5 more minutes, Percy finally led everyone to a huge portrait of a lady who looked very wealthy. "Password," said the portrait. "Dragon scum." As Percy responded to the command, the portrait slowly opened to reveal a circular passage behind it. Following the passage, everyone came to a round room filled with soft armchairs and sofas. There was also a fireplace on the wall facing the passage that was not burning at the moment. The girls' dorm is on the left, and the boys' dorm can be reached by going upstairs through the door on the right. The boys will wait here for a moment while I take the ladies to their dorms. As he spoke, Percy motioned for the girls to follow him, but he suddenly noticed a stranger had mixed into the group. "Your name is Remy, right? I'm going to take them to the girls' dormitory now. You wait here and I'll take you to the boys' dormitory later," Percy said. "I know, I just want to go to the girls' dormitory and take a look," Remy said calmly, even acting as if it was a matter of course. "I am honest and I am proud." "Then you have to be disappointed. Boys are not allowed to enter the girls' dormitory, not even this passage," Percy said. "Oh, then why were you able to enter?" Remy asked. Percy puffed out his chest, "Because I'm a prefect." "Oh, so if you become a prefect you are no longer a man?" Remy asked. Percy was stunned for a moment and then shook his head. "The Gryffindor female prefect will have to come to Hogwarts 2 days later for some reasons, so I will take them to the girls' dormitory today." "Oh, tell me, how much did you bribe the female prefect?" "I'll pay double." "You." Percy's face darkened and he immediately panicked because he noticed that the looks from people around him, both boys and girls, were not right. Especially his younger brother. "Remy, stop talking nonsense. Do you think everyone is like you?" Hermione said dissatisfiedly. Remy thought for a moment and nodded vigorously. "You still understand me?" Feeling that everyone was looking at her, Hermione blushed and walked quickly towards the passage on the left. Seeing Remy walking towards the sofa on her own, Percy breathed a sigh of relief, hurriedly led the girls into the passage, and closed the door at the end. As soon as the door closed, Ronald immediately ran to Remy's side. "Awesome. This is the first time I've seen someone embarrass Percy like this. Even George and Fred haven't done it before." Remy looked at Ronald speechlessly. "Your brother was so embarrassed by me, and yet you are so happy? Your circle is so chaotic. I hope we can be assigned to the same dormitory, otherwise we will have to move our luggage later. I just want to sleep now," Harry said listlessly. "I really don't have any dreams. I just want to go to the girls' dormitory now," Remy said. Harry. What kind of dream is this? You are clearly delusional. After a while, Percy opened the door and came out of the girls' dormitory area, then led the boys into the dormitory area. Going up the spiral staircase to the second floor, Percy took the parchment and began to assign dormitories to everyone. Remy and Harry were assigned to the same dormitory, which made Harry breathe a sigh of relief. In addition to them, there are 3 other people living in the same dormitory with them, namely, Ronald, Neville, and Seamus. There were 5 large beds in the dormitory, draped with crimson velvet curtains. Everyone's luggage had long been delivered to the room and was now placed against the wall not far from the dormitory entrance. I choose the innermost bed. Is that okay with you? Remy asked. The 4 of them shook their heads at the same time, all looking listless. I'll take the one next to Remy. My luggage is all with Remy, so it will be more convenient for me to move things later. Harry said. Then I'll take the outermost one, closer to the door, Neville said. I'll sleep in the middle. Ronald said. With no choice left, Simo didn't care and didn't even say a word as he walked straight to the bed and started taking off his shoes. He picked up the suitcase and walked to his bed. Harry quickly followed and said he wanted to get his pajamas. Wait a minute, I brought a hanger. As he spoke, Remy took out several metal pipes of different lengths from the box and quickly put them together to make a floor-standing clothes hanger. This move immediately shocked the 4 young wizards who had never seen the world, and even made them more alert. Remy took out a lot of clothes for Harry, unloaded Harry's luggage piece by piece, and then sorted out his own things. First, he took out the boards, then Remy took out the metal pipes, and then he took out a lot of screws and tools. Under everyone's curious gaze, Remy began to piece it together into something that Harry thought looked very much like a display wall used to display goods in a supermarket, and there were indeed small hooks on it. Move it to the wall, close to it, and Remy takes out a bunch of things and puts them together to make a table. Seeing this, Harry finally couldn't help himself. Remy, are you opening a shop? Harry asked. Open a store? Not for now, but I will open it later. As he spoke, Remy bent down and took out the... I'm boiling. Harry and Seamus swore at the same time and stepped back quickly. Seeing their reactions, Ronald and Neville, confused, also quickly retreated. Why do you still have a gun? What do you want to do? Simo asked in a trembling voice. Is this big guy also a gun? Ronald and Neville quickly retreated further away. Don't worry, it's just routine maintenance. After saying that, Remy deftly disassembled it into a pile of parts and placed them on the table, then took out a piece of cloth and carefully wiped each component. Don't worry, I have always strictly abided by the principle of separation of guns and bullets, so there will be no safety hazards. You guys go to sleep first, don't worry about me. Remy said. Sleep? Sleep P. Who can sleep in this mess? After putting the last part together, Remy pointed the gun towards the window and pulled the trigger. After making sure it fired normally, Remy nodded with satisfaction and then hung it on the assembled display wall. Remy, do you know that your behavior has violated the laws of the wizarding world? Ronald said. No, I didn't break any laws. Remy turned around and looked at Ronald, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised in a smug expression. Episode 28, The Madman Within the Law. Remy. I know that there is a special law in the wizarding world that controls items from the Muggle world, but it is obvious that the person who made this law does not understand the Muggle world, so there are many loopholes in this law. The current definition of a firearm in the wizarding world is a strange weapon made by Muggles that can fire bullets after use. At the same time, there are only 2 crimes in the wizarding world regarding firearms. One is the crime of possessing a firearm, and the other is the crime of using a firearm. As he spoke, Remy squatted in front of the suitcase, took out a rifle from it and placed it on the table, then took out a bullet from his pocket and stood it up next to it. So when I kept the gun and the bullets separately, neither the gun nor the bullets met the legal definition of a firearm, which means they were not guns legally. So I did not possess a firearm, and naturally I did not commit a crime, Remy said. Ronald looked at the rifle, then at the bullet next to it, then at the bullet, and then at the gun next to it. His eyes began to circle. He has been confused. But, you have used a gun before, and there were bullets in the gun, said Simo. Remy nodded, then shook his head. This is related to the definition of possession in the law. Possession can be understood as continuous possession, that is, it is necessary to maintain possession of the item for a period of time to be judged as possession. And I didn't exceed 10 seconds in total before, so I don't meet the time requirement of possession, so I still can't be arrested for possession of firearms. The four of them looked at each other. Although they did not fully understand what Remy meant, looking at Remy's confident and calm demeanor, they felt that what Remy said was very likely true. But, you used it. Harry suddenly said, doesn't that mean you used a firearm? You're right. Remy nodded and then shrugged nonchalantly. But unfortunately, there is a law in the wizarding world called the Underage Wizard Protection Act that will protect me. Therefore, even if I use a gun, as long as it does not cause serious harm or loss to others, I will not be locked up. At most, it will be like what Professor McGonagall did today, confiscating the gun and giving me criticism and education. Everyone. Does this mean that the laws of the wizarding world can no longer stop you? You are the next Dark Lord, right? No, it should be called the Grey Lord. The Ministry of Magic has no reason to arrest you. I think I should write a letter to my father and tell him about it. My father works in the misuse of Muggle artifacts department at the Ministry of Magic, and that's what he's in charge of. Ronald whispered. You can write now. Oh, I forgot about the owl. Remy and Harry quickly got up and took out their own and Harry's owls. Seeing that the two owls were still alive, Remy and Harry both breathed a sigh of relief. No, I just said it casually, don't worry, I won't. I mean it. Remy interrupted Ronald. It takes time to amend the law. By the time the law is amended, I will definitely no longer need these things. My goal is to create a magical gun that is 100% made in the wizarding world and can fire magic. When Simo heard Remy talking about his goal, his eyes lit up, but then he became confused. I've seen my mother use magic. Now that I think about it, magic doesn't seem to be as powerful as a gun. Seamus said, why do you want to make magic guns? To use guns legally in the wizarding world? Of course not. Remy smoothed his hair and pointed at the gun on the table. I have done experiments with my teacher before. Not to mention this automatic rifle, even a powerful heavy sniper rifle can be blocked by entry-level protective magic. Even if a fired bullet happens to be hit by a magic spell like the disarming spell, although the probability is very low, once it collides, the bullet will stop instantly and fall to the ground, without any power at all. I also used a whole piece of dragon meat with dragon skin to do an experiment. Even armor-piercing bullets could not penetrate the 10-centimeter thick dragon meat. If it was an ordinary 5.56mm bullet, even a single shot could not penetrate even a thicker dragon skin. And the fresher the dragon meat, the less damage the gun can cause. I guess it's because fresh dragon meat contains more magic power. It's a pity that the teacher didn't agree to let me go to the dragon farm to use live dragons for experiments, otherwise maybe I would have unlocked the Dragon Slayer achievement by now. Everyone gasped. Slaying a dragon? How dare you think about it? But at the same time, the four of them were happy. It turns out that the most common protective magic can resist firearms. I have decided that I must study hard when I learn about protective magic in the spells class. Okay, you guys take a rest first. I'll try to be as quiet as possible. Remy said, then turned around and continued to disassemble and clean the gun. After hearing what Remy said, everyone was immediately awakened from sleepiness. After watching for a while to get over the novelty, the four of them went to bed. It's just that everyone dreams about Remy and the gun at night. This is not a good dream. The next morning, when the four saw the display wall next to Remy's bed filled with various guns, they were devastated. Are you kidding me? Remy, this is too outrageous. What is he going to do? Open a gun shop in Hogwarts? Seamus complained. I can't understand how he brought so many things to Hogwarts, Neville muttered. Harry did not join in the complaints, but walked to Remy's bed and nudged Remy, who was sleeping soundly. Remy, wake up, we should go to class. Harry said. What classes do we have today? Remy asked dazedly, rubbing his eyes. This morning we have History of Magic class. I heard that the professor teaching History of Magic is a ghost. I'm not interested. I won't go. No, I'll go after I wake up. Everyone. You want to skip class on your first day? Did you mean what you said yesterday? Are you really here to deduct points from Gryffindor? We are Gryffindor, not Gryffindor. All three of them immediately looked at Harry. The meaning was very clear. You have the best relationship with him, you figure out a way. Harry nodded, gritted his teeth, and continued to push Remy. Remy, we just arrived at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Hurry up and get up. Come back after class and then go back to sleep. It's the first class, how inappropriate would it be not to go? Be careful, the professor calls you parents. After much persuasion, Remy, who was fed up with the constant noise, had to reluctantly leave the warm and soft bed that he loved so much. Get up, change clothes, and wash up. Remy was in a daze the whole time and didn't even know how to get to the restaurant, let alone enter the classroom. He had no impression at all. He was maintaining the gun until dawn last night and didn't sleep for very long. After entering the classroom, Remy was so sleepy that he fell asleep immediately. Until Episode 29 Passing Notes is the soul of class. The earliest recorded record of wizards was around 500 AD, but the exact year is no longer known. The first wizard in recorded history was Merlin, so Merlin is known as the greatest wizard, the first wizard, the sage, the guide, etc. However, there has been controversy over these titles in the magic history community for hundreds of years, so there is no definitive conclusion. Remy was drowsy when he heard the almost transparent ghost Professor Binns talking about the origin of wizards and the first wizard Merlin. He suddenly became alert and raised his hand. However, Cuthbert Binns did not notice him at all, and even Cuthbert Binns did not look at any of the students at all, and just continued to tell the story of Merlin's life. Teacher, I have a question to ask you. Remy said. Remy's words interrupted Cuthbert Binns's story and attracted many curious looks, especially Hermione. She remembered what Remy had said to her yesterday, when Remy said he had no interest in history at all. Oh, you are Remy Barrett, right? What's your question? Cuthbert Binns thought for a long time and then nodded. Well, you just said that the earliest record of wizards was around 500 AD, right? Yes, what's the matter? But when I bought a wand in Diagon Alley, I saw a sign at Ollivander's wand shop saying that their family had been making wands since 382 BC. Could it be that wands appeared earlier than wizards? Hearing Remy's question, many students began to discuss quietly and looked at Cuthbert Binns curiously. They had all been to Ollivander's wand shop to buy wands, and many of them had seen the introduction. My subject is history of magic, and I study facts, not myths and legends. Cuthbert Binns spoke in a calm and even tone, as if there was nothing agitated inside him. The earliest record that can be found is around 500 AD. Anything before that can only be considered a myth. It is not within the scope of my research. Is that so? Remy nodded thoughtfully. Any questions? Asked Cuthbert Binns. No, there is another question. Remy said. Cuthbert Binns, do you know how the first wizard appeared? If you mean Merlin, the first recorded wizard, there is no historical record of who his parents were, only a legend, said Cuthbert Binns. Remy's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, what legend is that? Cuthbert Binns frowned and seemed reluctant to speak, but he finally spoke. First of all, I don't agree with this legend. I don't agree with any legend. According to the legend, Merlin's mother was an ordinary human woman, a muggle, and she combined with a magical creature called the incubus to give birth to Merlin. But the magic world has not yet found a magical creature like the incubus, and there is no record of the incubus in history books, said Cuthbert Binns. Could it be an alias? For example, Vila. But the people at that time or Merlin's mother didn't know Vila, so they gave her the name of a nightmare? Remy asked. Cuthbert Binns shook his head, looking a little impatient. I don't know this, and I don't study it. If you don't have any other questions, I will continue the class. Oh, okay. Listening to Cuthbert Binns continuing to narrate the history of the past in his flat voice, Remy did not feel sleepy, but his mind was already floating in the sky. Until Hermione suddenly handed him a notebook with the words, "Didn't you say yesterday that you have no interest in history at all?" Coming back to his senses, Remy picked up the quill. I am not interested in history, but I am very interested in the origin of wizards and want to study it clearly. Soon, Remy received another reply from Hermione. Why are you interested in this issue? After hesitating for a while, Remy wrote down his thoughts. If the origin of wizards can be studied clearly, perhaps ordinary people who are not wizards can be artificially given magical powers, thus turning them into wizards. Hermione was stunned when she saw Remy's reply. She had not expected Remy to have such ambitious goals. Then, she thought of her parents. If her parents could become wizards, if more parents of Muggle-born little wizards could become wizards. I'll go to the library with you after class to look up information, Hermione whispered. I didn't say I was going to look up information. Looking up information is so tiring and boring. Blinking, Remy decided not to speak his inner thoughts. He felt that if he did, Hermione would think he was just an empty dreamer. But he really didn't want to look up the information, not only because it was troublesome, but also because if the library could find the information, this question would not have remained unanswered until now. I already have a plan for this, and I will tell you as soon as I come up with the results of my research. Remy wrote in his notebook and then handed the notebook to Hermione. As soon as she saw Remy's note, Hermione immediately became interested and asked Remy about the relevant plans. Remy did not hide it and told Hermione that he was a natural master of alchemy. Remy was born with alchemy skills, and the alchemy he mastered was very special, and he could use it even before his magic awakened. But at that time Remy couldn't make anything. He could only summon a scale that only he could see. It was useless except for looking at it. After the magic power is awakened, Remy can put magic power on one end of the scale and real objects on the other end, or neither. If you put an item at the other end, then this alchemy will be done with that item as the material. If you don't put it, then this alchemy will fail. The only exception is magic crystal. Magic crystal does not require a medium. Magic crystal is solid magic power created by Remy using alchemy. It takes 2 parts of magic power to refine one magic crystal. Initially, the magic crystals refined by Remy were inedible. It was necessary to use magic crystals as raw materials and consume magic power to refine them again before they could be converted into edible magic crystals. Since magic crystals can be created out of thin air, and magic crystals can be used as raw materials, in a sense Remy does have the ability to create things out of thin air. As long as he has enough magic power. The closer the raw material is to the desired final product, the less magic Remy needs to put in. At the same time, the more Remy understands and defines the characteristics of the desired final product, the less magic he will need to put in, and the success rate will be greatly improved. When Remy uses alchemy, if the magic power invested at one time is insufficient, or if he does not have a clear and distinct understanding of the final product, the alchemy will fail. As for the price of failure, it is naturally. Boom shakalaka. Episode 30 Dumbledore's Bed Check. Before meeting Nicholas Flamel, Remy had done some alchemy and had made some interesting little things, but the failure rate was extremely high. Therefore, after roughly figuring out what his alchemy was all about, Remy no longer continued to use alchemy to create anything other than magic crystals. He has been waiting and hoarding magic crystals. Now that he has undoubtedly improved greatly compared to before, and finally arrived at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Remy feels that it is time to try to refine something truly useful. Start with something simple and go step by step. The biggest difference between Muggles and Wizards is whether they have magic power or not. There is also an intermediate group between Muggles and Wizards, and that is the Squibs. So I plan to refine magic cards first, to see if I can refine a magic card that can be used by Squibs. After class, Remy told Hermione about his ideas, and then remembered that Hermione didn't seem to know what magic cards were, so Remy gave Hermione 2 magic cards and explained them to her. Maybe because Hermione had already learned some daily magic, she had no difficulty using the magic cards and activated the magic inside very easily. This made Harry, who was eating at the same table, very envious. He still hadn't mastered the technique of using magic cards. That's a great invention. Was it yours too? Hermione asked. No, this is my teacher's invention, Remy said. Oh, but how can we turn them into magic cards that only Squibs can use? It needs to be injected with magic power before it can be used, but Squibs cannot control magic power, Hermione asked. I have 2 ideas at the moment. One is to use magic cards directly as raw materials to refine them so that they can be physically activated and actively absorb the magic power in the holder's body. The other is to create a peripheral device that can be physically activated, actively absorb the magic power in the holder's body and transmit magic power, Remy said. It sounds feasible. If you can really make this thing, which of these 2 options is easier to implement? Hermione asked after thinking for a moment. It depends on why the Squibs can't control their magic, Remy said. From what I know, some Squibs claim that they can't sense the magic in their bodies, while some Squibs say that they can sense the magic in their bodies but just can't control it. If I can't sense the magic power in my body, that would be more troublesome. That means I need to add physical activation, active absorption of magic power, automatic stop after the magic power is full, or give feedback to the holder on the basis of the existing magic cards. That means at least 4 different effects. The more effects I add to the same item, the more magic power I need to spend, and the success rate will be greatly reduced. Even if I use multiple refining steps, if one of the steps fails, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Hermione and Harry nodded thoughtfully, only Ronald gave up listening after a while and focused on eating. This kind of academic stuff doesn't suit him very well. But if it's a peripheral, doesn't it also need so many effects? Harry asked after thinking for a while. Peripherals can be made up of multiple small parts, and I can attach different effects to each part and then combine them, just like a bunch of parts are finally combined into a gun, Remy explained. Now I understand when you put it that way, Harry and Hermione suddenly realized. Hermione even asked if the effect could be reduced if the Squibs could sense the magic in their bodies, to which Remy answered in the affirmative. Looking at Hermione, who seemed to be deep in thought, Remy quickly reminded her that she couldn't ask the Squibs directly about this kind of thing. Firstly, it was impolite, and secondly, they might not necessarily tell the truth. They might even have had illusions due to psychological reasons. The best approach would be to wait for him to make 2 different peripherals, then find a dud to experiment with. You will know the real situation once you try it. Maybe it's both, Hermione said, but who are you going to try it on? Mr. Filch, of course, said Remy. I heard from my brothers that Filch is a bad guy. His favorite thing to do is to punish students. It is almost impossible to persuade him to help. Ronald said in a muffled voice. What do you mean by asking him for help? It's clearly us helping him. If he doesn't want to, there are plenty of people who are willing. Remy said confidently. He didn't believe that any squib could resist the temptation of mastering magic. Even if someone says no, their body must be honest. After dinner, they chatted and rested for a while in the common room, and then continued their classes with other students. The afternoon class was Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration class. However, to the disappointment of all the little wizards, in the first Transfiguration class, although Professor McGonagall demonstrated several transfiguration magics to them, he did not teach them. This is not only a theoretical class, but also a theoretical class with empty promises. After finishing a day's classes, many young wizards expressed their anticipation for tomorrow's classes, because tomorrow they will have defense against the dark arts and herbology classes. I heard that the herbology class will not be held in a classroom but in a greenhouse. Many young wizards showed great interest in greenhouse cultivation and various magical plants. The young wizards didn't know much about the defense against the dark arts class, but most of them seemed very excited when talking about this class, probably because the word dark magic in this class made it sound cool. But Remy didn't have any hope for this. How could Professor Quirrell teach them real skills? Rather than relying on what he taught them, they might as well rely on guns. After dinner, Remy immediately returned to the dormitory to prepare for his alchemy work. However, as soon as he entered the dormitory, he saw an uninvited guest, Principal Dumbledore. And at this moment he was looking at a wall of guns. Oh, you're back. I'm sorry to enter your dormitory without permission, but the house elf in charge of cleaning told me that very dangerous contraband was found in your dormitory, so I had to come over. Dumbledore turned around, pushed his glasses and said with a smile. Gudong. Harry and the others swallowed and immediately looked at Remy and then quickly looked away. Compared to their panic, Remy was just stunned for a moment. He was not panicked at all and even greeted Dumbledore enthusiastically. Hi, Professor Dumbledore, it's been a while since we last met. How have you been? Remy asked. He met Dumbledore once, but only met once before Nicholas Flamel sent him back to his room, saying he had something important to discuss. Dumbledore nodded. It was fine, but now it's a bit of a headache. What do you think I should do with these things? Should I call your teacher?